I had a program where you could see what everybody was typing, and you could see what they were. You could do anything to these people. So if somebody was bad, came on your server, and they started like cursing at one of my friends or something, I could put them in a jail cell. I could where they couldn't even move in the game, and they were just stuck. I could literally gimp them so that if they were to talk, they would just say a bunch of crap that I wrote, or like they would talk about llamas or something, so they couldn't say anything rude anymore. I could I could take over their characters, and then I was taking over their computer and their characters. That's how powerful you could mess with somebody in Gary's mind. I was taking over their characters, and you could do whatever you want. You could even type and say whatever you want, as well. I could. There was no end to the things that I could do to people. I could light them on fire. I could ragdoll them so that they would just become this dead model that you could pick up and throw around. There's no other game I play that's like Garry's Mod. Garry's Mod is a really great game. Um, so so you know, it's possible that I could even put up a Garry's Mod server to this day. Because Garry's Mod servers are just Garry's Mod's just a great game. But back then it was really something else too. I mean, it was just came out for the first time, so it was really cool. And like I said, the first versions of Garry's Mod were primitive. The one that I came on, I don't know if it was called like Garry's Mod 9 or whatnot, but it was at that point it was a much better game. But like what ended up happening was, and like I said, a lot of new Valve games came out that like Left 4 Dead, and you had more assets to play with, but like I ended up making you know what else I had? I had a nuke, and I could drop a nuke in the game, and that was awesome. I had a nuke that I could drop in the game, and I also had a nuke that I could place in the game, and somebody had to find the nuke, and if they didn't find the nuke in time, the nuke would go off and it would destroy everything and kill everybody. I think people would turn into like a burnt corpse, and it was just like I put zombies in the game, and I had events where like the town got attacked by zombies or got attacked by something. I think you could do like asteroids or something. You could like rain on the earth. I mean, it was just crazy. It's the amount of cool stuff you could do in this game. And there were cars, obviously, and that you could have that really didn't work on the downtown map that I preferred. So anyway, I also got into map editing. So making. So I started to make maps, and I started CDS. I was just really into all of it. It just fueled my desire to make a game, and I was obviously making a game inside of Garry's Mod, and I was gonna have like things that people could buy, that they could buy for like donations to the server, not like game changing things, but I was gonna do that just so that I could support the server because I had no money, and I wasn't making any money off of it. But like I never actually did that. Uh, but I was gonna do that, and like I said, all of this ran off of a crappy air card. So there came a time where I lent that air card out to somebody, and they didn't return it. So I ended up having to rent a server, a real server, and I ended up doing that. And like I said, I had little to no money, but I did it anyway because it was just worth it to me. It was just worth it to me. And I put that server up at the end of my senior year when I was 18, which would have been 2009. And that was the greatest server because I actually was developing my own map. So I left it on a map called Construct, which was like a couple buildings and a bunch of grass. And yet, even though it was just a couple buildings and a bunch of grass, and I was telling them the best is yet to come, I'm making this great map, and I was like fixing security holes in the server so people couldn't like abuse props. Uh, Even though I was preparing for a server and everything, that server was more popular than the last one. I had it was like a 30 slot server, and I had like the whole thing packed all day long and all night long. There was people there nonstop. That was like the place to be because we had the best people. We had the best people, and we had like the it was just a party. It was a nonstop party, and I had like this giant piano, and you could play this piano in the game. Any cool thing that you could get for Gary's Mod, I would get, and I'd put it in the game. I think I had a jukebox. I think I had like I had like all this stuff. I had like fairies that you had, which were like these little glowing balls, and they would like follow you around. I could give people fairies, and craziest, most fun game ever. Like Toaster, he made like a Kraken, which was this giant monstrosity of a bunch of props put together, and he made this Kraken. And he would say, "Release the Kraken," and that kind of almost crashed the server. So I was like, that was a little too much, but it was funny. And I always wanted people to give me hearts because you could like vote people, and I wanted them to give me hearts, and everybody would give me hearts. I had all the hearts, and I said Toaster needs to get all the stars, and it was a lot of fun. I was adding models to the game, and one of the best times in my life, in fact. So I would say that like I said, there was that one guy who before named Kenshi, who was Zach, and that was by the time this had happened, I had banned that guy, and he had already gotten into my account through Steam somehow. I don't know if you put a keylogger on my computer or if it was something else, somebody social engineered it or what, but like somebody got into my Steam account, and he might have been the one, and he tried to like I don't know if he didn't destroy the Vigilante Brothers, but he kicked me out of my own Vigilante Brothers. He made me quit or something, and he but Toaster was still there, so I was able to get it back from Toaster, and you know, this guy, I met him I met him earlier when I was doing the original Vigilante Brothers, and you know that was fun and everything, but it didn't compare to having my own server. Having my own server was the best ever. My battery life is dying on this iPad that I'm recording off of, but I'm thinking I'm gonna need to get my charger. One sec. That's my foot. One sec. Okay. Get it plugged in. So, like I said, I got hacked by this guy, but I met him in the Vigilante Brothers and in the beginning, and I gave him moderator because I wanted people to moderate my server, and he would like abuse his power, and like he would like spawn nukes and stuff without warning all the time, all day. He would just go up in front of people and be an asshole, just shoot them. So I like through the walls and stuff, and that was just gonna make people leave my server. So I had to get rid of this guy as far as moderator. Of course, when I did that, he got pissed, and what ended up happening was he would come on my server and try to crash it. He became this malicious asshole. So I ended up banning him through his Steam, ID, and that pretty much handled that. I mean, I think he came on with another account one time. No big deal. He tried to rival me. He tried to make his own server, and it failed. Yeah, so, but like I said, the first, I'm getting a little heartburn here. The first, uh, the first, like me playing Garry's Mod and everything. First with the co-op, and then the vigilante character was fun, but it just didn't compare to having my own server. It just didn't compare. It was way better, and it was just awesome. The amount of people I met on there. I even had like a TV that you could have on there, and you could play like YouTube off of it, and you could play videos and stuff, and a projector. I mean, it was just like, when does the coolness end? When does this game end? There's like so much you can do in it. There's so much you can do in it, and this is the most social game ever. I thought World of Warcraft was like the most social game that everything, but no, this game was clearly the best time I ever had in a video game with people. So that's saying something. So it had an effect on me, and what I'm getting at now is so I had this server, and I had big plans for this server, and what ended up happening though is I'd just gone into college for game design, and I also had something happening to my hands. It was some psychosomatic thing that was going on in my hands, where I started to get like pain in my hands. I didn't know where it was coming from. I thought it was a physical thing, like carpal tunnel or something, but it wasn't. It was like a psychosomatic illness in the hands that happened from stress, because it was very stressful in my high school and everything. But like what ended up happening was I had to stop using the server because of my hands, and because of that, I had to take the server down, or I took the server down. Maybe I shouldn't have, but I did, and at that point, it all kind of stopped. But later in 2010, I looked it up here. It looks like it was later in 2010. Looks like it was January 7th, 2010, which is about 9 years ago. So later in 2010, I put it up another server, and this time I actually had a map where I had that I was updating to the server while I was working on it. And prior to that, I had made one map where it was like a tunnel, and I was going to expand it into a city. And then I also was making a map where I had a skyscraper, and I had a mansion planned, and I had a jazz club planned for my friend. And so basically, I had this map, and they came on, and it was good. But what ended up happening was there was a lot of other games out, and there wasn't, Garry's Mod wasn't quite as new, so they would come on occasionally, but they weren't as interested. They were playing these other games, and also I was spending a lot of time working on the maps and stuff, so I wasn't in the game like I was. I was working on the maps, so I wasn't as present as I was prior. You know what I mean? So, and then on top of all of that, I basically decided that, if I'm going to put all this effort into making the map for Garry's Mod, do I want to do that when the game isn't as popular as it was? Or do I want to make a real video game, get into that, and cross the barrier, cross the threshold? So about 9 years ago, I decided that I was going to do that. I was going to make my own video game instead. And that's when I started getting into Unreal Engine 3, I believe, at the time. And that quickly turned out to Unreal Engine 4. which you had to pay for, and then I started to play Unreal, and then it came out for free, Unreal Engine 4, and I started to get into that. I started to get into Maya. I started to get into 3ds Max. I started to get all these game design tools that you would need, and learn how video games were made, and watch a lot of different things, like learn a lot of different things. I started to I had messed around with C++ before, and I started to get into C++ more, and it just laid some of the groundwork for what I'm doing today. So that's why Garry's Mod to me is a fantastic game. It's a game that really influenced me and made me really decide to get into computers, get into video game design. It solidified all that, because prior to that I didn't know. I was a gamer, and I know I wanted to make games, but I also, I wanted to, maybe I wanted to be an actor. Maybe I wanted to be, just be an actor, or just be, make another different kind of company, something a little easier. But no, I wanted to go up to the challenge, and I wanted to make video games. So that's why I ended up doing that, because a lot of it has to do with Garry's Mod. So I put a lot of stock on Garry's Mod, and I think Garry's Mod is a fantastic game. There's been no other game like it. It's not really a game. It's like an anti-game. It's like it's a sandbox. You make your own game. So I don't know if we'll ever see another game quite up to the standards of Garry's Mod, because that's just a unique game altogether. I don't even know how Garry's Mod is today. So that's the thing. I don't know how it is today, but I know how it was back then. Today I hear it's a lot of mini games. It's not as good, but back then it was all about the dark role play for me anyway, and it was just good stuff, and it created friendships that I have to this day. I'm still friends with Deathwish. That was one of the guys who came on my server. Who he was a little he messed with everybody by pretending to be different people and having these different family members. Like, he pretended to be somebody named Sharpie. He changed his name to Sharpie and pretended to be a whole different person that he wasn't. And I found out. And I used Nikolai Molotov to get back at him. And I made sure that he was the last person to find out that Nikolai Molotov was a fake character. Because I did eventually tell everybody that Russian character was a fake character. And he was the last person that I told. And I did that because he messed with me. And the way I did it was, he was on the server one day, and I had two computers in my computer room, and I had two Garry's Mod accounts on at the same time, and I moved us like this, so he could see that we were the same person, like up and down the head and right. So we all moved the same way, and he could see we were the same person, and he just blew his mind, and he was he couldn't believe that he was the last person to know, and I let him wait like a couple years, thinking that Nikolai was real. It was a running joke. Everybody made fun of him, and you know what? Eric became one of my best friends. So that's just crazy. That from that game came one of my best friends. And there was another friend of mine there who there's been bad friendships. There's been good friendships, but overall, I'm glad Garry's Mod happened. So this is my review of Garry's Mod. This is my review of Garry's Mod, what I think about Garry's Mod. And I did disband the Vigilante Brothers because, obviously we weren't going to be raiding servers, and I essentially quit Garry's Mod. So when I decided to make video games, I essentially disbanded the Vigilante Brothers. And I decided that I was going to put my attention to a real group now, because I was going to get real. I was going to do real business, and that's when I got into Valkyrie, actually, immediately after that, and that's when I made Valkyrie. My first thoughts and my and I came up with Valkyrie. And I actually had a website for a while called ValkyrieNet.org, where I was working with Valkyrie, and at that time it was a very primitive version of Valkyrie, but it was just like the beginnings of Valkyrieware, and and I will be putting up the Valkyrieware site again shortly later in this year. So later in this year, I'll be putting the Valkyrieware site back up. Reason that it's currently down is because I decided to buy my own hardware. So rather than rent the hardware out, which is more expensive and not as good because people can get in your computer and stuff, I decided to rent my own hardware. Excuse me, buy my own hardware instead of rent my own hardware. So that's why the Valkyrieware site's down right now. But sure, you know, I'm doing a few. I'm selling off some of my stock so that I can purchase this server hardware. It's going to provide a better experience than ever, and so that is what is to come. And so, hope you enjoyed this video. This video is definitely documenting a very important game for me personally, and when it comes to some of my projects, like I have a project called Citizen, and when it comes to that project is 100% influenced by Garry's mod, Dark Roleplay. So so I hope this was helpful. This is going to be part of a series of game reviews that I do, but this one would be one of the longer ones because this one was a very impactful game. In fact, this might be the longest review that I make. The only other game I could think of that might be as long would be possibly World of Warcraft, but even then I don't think that's going to be as long as this. So have a good day, everybody.